Begin by coming to a comfortable seat. I'm going to read a little bit from A Light on Life today. I haven't read from this book, it seems like for ages. And it's such a beautiful book and so accessible for anybody, really, just what it was intended to be. This Light on Life by B.K.S. Iyengar. And there's a section in here I had bookmarked on suffering thing, on a suffering thing. Lightness, think light and feel light. When an asana is done correctly, the body movements are smooth and there's light in the body and freedom in the mind. When an asana is felt as being heavy, it is wrong. You must try to impart a feeling of lightness throughout your body. And I love the way it just says, it's wrong. It's not like the best. It's wrong. When an asana is felt as being heavy, it is wrong. You must try to impart a feeling of lightness throughout your body. This can be achieved by mentally extending yourself outward from the center of your body. That is, think tall and act tall. Think not just of raising your arms, but of extending them outward in the physical sense. And when you're holding them still, think again of extending the intelligence by reaching still further away from your body. Do not think of yourself as a small, compressed, suffering thing. Think of yourself as graceful and expanding, no matter how unlikely it may seem at the time. So a little tip from Guruji Iyengar. Expand, extend, and imagine yourself to be graceful, tall, and limber, even if you find it difficult to believe. And because we are more than our flesh and bone, we're not limited by merely this external physical existence. And it's what we see, and it's what works for us as a tool in the material world, but it is not all we are. It is not. If we could see ourselves, we could remove this casing, then we would be a light body, light energy. I'm going to go through our slow flow sequence to begin with today. And then we're going to do some standing work. We haven't done that for a few weeks. And now with your bolster between your knees, we're going to lengthen along the bolster. See that the thoracic diaphragm is rested on the bolster. Press down through the heel of your hands and move your buttocks down toward the heel of your feet. And then reach the arms forward again and look forward and lengthen the frontal spine. So the spine, the bones themselves lengthen forward, but then the back body, the skin of the back moves down toward the back waist, and from the back waist down toward the sit bones, buttocks descending. And then rest your forehead. Keep the inner armpit chest lifted, the outer armpit chest ascended, broadening across the back, skin of the back wide. Then roll the weight to the base of the thumb and index finger, and spreading the palm pads, feel all the knuckles firmly pressed down into the mat. And maintain this. And as you extend and broaden, moving both vertically and horizontally and circumferentially, can you maintain this fullness? And after a few breaths, you may feel the inner body begin to shrink away. And then bring your awareness back into the skin of the fingertips, the cells of the nails, and a soft abdomen, soft hips, soft breath. With the torso supported on the bolster, the lungs are in a position of ease. It's very soothing to the body to rest in this position. We find that antaryaman, that sense of the inner controller taking charge in that sattvic state, finding inner peace. Maintain this and push up into Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward dog pose. If your head can be supported on the bolster, then allow it to. That would be ideal. Otherwise, let the head hang, back of the neck is long. Again, press into the palm pads, cut the outer corners of the hips back, take the heads of the thigh bones back and extend your heels down. Eyes soft, breath soft. Keep the inner armpit chest lifting, outer armpit chest descending. It's like the armpit chest is turning to face itself or to face each other. And on an exhale, swing your hips forward, come into Urdhva Mukha Svanasana. Press down through the palms, lengthen up through the inner arms. Bring the armpit chest forward now. Back armpit chest to front. And lifting the sternum from the bottom up. Sacrum extends from the top down, making the spine long, finding that extension of the spine. Eyes soft, eyes receding. Exhale, and from the lightness of the solar plexus, push up into Adho Mukha Svanasana. And then look forward and step or walk your feet to Uttanasana. And then we'll come up and take the chair for Uttanasana today. And you can have a brick as well. I'm just putting the brick at the bottom of the chair so it's there when I'm ready for it. And from Tadasana, Urdhva Hastasana, exhale, fold from the hips, take your wrist bones to the back of the chair and walk back until your spine is long, getting your feet under the hips. And then turn the outer armpit chest toward the floor, lift the inner armpit chest, and then collarbones are forward toward the chair back. Lock the shoulder blades against the ribs. Navel lifts slightly, find the lightness in the solar plexus region, and hit the thigh bones back. So the spine is lengthening in both directions. And then gaze toward the floor, let the ears be in line with the arms. Even though the navel is slightly lifted, the sit bones are sharp. And the next stage is to take your third eye, the Ajna chakra, to the chair seat. So you can walk in slightly. If you need the brick for this, you place the brick on the chair seat, whatever you need. You can clasp the inner elbows and let the arms hang. Let the upper body be heavy and pull up through the front of the thighs, quadriceps firm, sit bones sharp. I feel that pressure on the Ajna chakra, the third eye, opening up the spiritual eye. Pull down through the outer elbows. Use this action to lengthen the spine. The spine lengthens down toward the mat, and the legs lengthen up toward the ceiling, moving in this circular motion. And then this may be your final place, or you can take your crown of your head onto the yoga brick. Hands to the floor. See that your hips are over your feet. The tendency will be to lean back. See if the hips bring them forward a little bit more and pull up through the thighs to straighten the knees. Drive down through the heels. Breath is still soft, still moving in a pratyahara, an inward direction. And whichever version you're doing now, to come up, bring your hands to your hips, pin your shoulders back, and come all the way up with a straight spine. And now we're going to do a little bit of balancing with the chair. So you can take a belt. Place it around the neck of the heel of your right foot. And then you'll just have to guesstimate your distance from the chair. And bring the heel onto the chair back. If you need something cushier on your chair back, you can take it. Get your heel onto the chair back and not the Achilles tendon. Don't have all the pressure be on the tendon, have it be on the bone instead. And then you can straighten your arm along the belt and then pull the arm back into the socket. So the shoulder isn't getting pulled forward, it's coming back into the socket. Thighs spin in toward the midline. Extend out through both heels and lift up through the spine. And we can make the Jnana Mudra with the free hand, the left hand, which is to bring the index and thumb tips to touch, the other fingers spread away, and then just extend that arm out to your side. Pin the shoulders back, broaden across the collarbones, opening up the gates of the sternum. Outer corners of the hips level. Notice if the aerial leg hip has come up, and take the outer corner of that hip down. Extend it down toward the mat. Compact both hips toward the midline and become taller. Go beyond the crown of your head. Become 6 feet tall. That's easier for you, Mary. You're closer. And then bend your knee, bring the foot down, come back to standing and change sides. Now, when you do this, observe if the standing leg foot moves on you. You can begin by bringing the foot onto the chair seat. You could step it that way, or you can challenge yourself to take the foot straight to the back of the chair. Now observe if your standing leg foot moved while you did this. Did it wiggle around and end up turning out away from the midline? If it did, correct that, turn it back in toward the midline. Then spin the thighs in and extend out through both heels. Now with this raised leg, look out for this hip hiking up. You have to take the outer corner of this hip and push it down toward the mat. At the same time, both hips compact in toward the midline, as if you're holding a block between your thighs. You know that experience? We practice that with Vrikshasana. Pin the shoulders back, and now you'll take your free hand, make the Agna, the Jnana Mudra. Did I call it Agna before? Jnana Mudra, mudra of knowledge. Extend the arm out. Inhale, puff up your chest. Exhale, deflate the abdomen. And rise beyond the crown of the head. It's like the seventh chakra is way up here, 2 feet above your head. And then bend your standing leg and come out. And we'll do this to the side now. And we're using the chair today. Sometimes we do this at the wall. It's the chair gives us a little bit more freedom. We don't have to have the wall for it. And we can, and it puts another element of balance into it. Now, again, you're going to have to guesstimate the distance for the chair back, starting from Tadasana, so that the feet are pointing forward. And then begin by taking your leg to the chair and turning your right leg out. Right leg to the chair, right leg out. Now, descend the tailbone. Open up the groin on this side, on the right side. Tuck the tailbone in, and then you'll straighten your leg, taking the heel onto the chair back. And I'm a little too close, so I just wiggled my standing leg foot away a bit. Yeah, try to get the bone and not the Achilles tendon on the chair back. Just a little healthier. Don't want to put that pressure on the Achilles tendon. And now from here, go on turning this right thigh from the inside out, cutting the outer corner of the hip down. Watch again for this outer corner of the hip hiking up. You got to cut it down. And then move this outer hip in toward the midline. So you're compacting the hips toward the midline. Extend out through both heels. And turn away from the right leg. See how the torso wants to go with the right leg. I'm going to turn it away from the right leg, all the way from the lower abdomen. Sweep away. Revolve, revolve, revolve. I'm going to reach out through my left arm. And I can do the hand mudra again. I'm going to look away as well. I get that sense of turning from the bottom up, away from the right leg. And now just turn your gaze forward again. Eyes soft. Nice. And now with control, you're going to come out of the pose, bend your knee, bring your foot back to the chair, then bring it back to the floor and change sides. You can turn yourself around if you like. I turn my chair around so I can still see. So I'm still facing you and being on the right side, the correct side. You may want to turn your chair around so you're still facing me. So reestablish your Tadasana, compact the hips toward the midline. And now bring your left leg up and turn it out. See if you can separate the action of turning that, bringing that leg up and turning it out, separate that action from the rest of your body so that you're not bringing the leg up in a big movement kind of a way, but more of a, everything else remains serene and stable and undisturbed, and only the leg turns. And then turning that thigh from the inside out, and you'll bring your heel up to the chair back. Now this standing leg remains in Tadasana. It's going to want to go with the raised leg. So the action is really to turn it from the inside out. The last pose, when we face the chair, both thighs turned in toward the midline. Now they're both turning away from each other. We're getting into that external rotation action in the legs. Now, can you lower the outer corner of this raised leg hip? That's it, Susan. Any amount more if you can bring it down. And then compact the hips in toward the midline, in toward each other. Maintain this, and then we're going to sweep everything away. Turn the torso from the bottom up, turns away from the raised leg. And you can reach out with your right hand. Turn and look to the right. And feel again, the spinal rotation all the way from the base, bottom up. And now turn just your head back toward the screen. And with control, bend your knee and come out. Good work. Okay. Let's put the chair aside from now and have 2 bricks. And we'll come into Utthita Trikonasana, triangle pose. From standing, bring the arms up, and on an inhale, jump or step 4 feet apart. Coming into first Utthita Hasta Padasana. Outer edges of your feet align with the outer edges of your mat. Inner thigh lifts to the outer thigh, inner ankle to outer ankle. And then bottom arm lifts up. So the arm is lifted from underneath. There's lightness in the arms. Shoulders descend. Don't use the shoulders to lift the arms up. Instead, let the shoulders release down the back waist. Descend the tailbone and lift up from the pubic bone. From the root of the thigh, turn your right leg out 90 degrees. Left foot turns in slightly. And then inhaling, exhale into Utthita Trikonasana to your right. Now we just worked on the legs somewhat, waking up the legs. So there's some freedom in the hips, some power in the legs. In the pose we just did, go on spinning both thighs from the inside out. This is like the last pose we did when we were taking our leg out sideways on the chair. That's what your front leg is like. Spin that thigh out, and now from the bottom of the spine, revolve your torso toward the ceiling. Reach up through the raised arm and use that arm to help you in the rotation. Push into the outer back heel and lengthen both sides of your spine to the crown of the head. Eyes soft. breath soft. Now align the back of your skull with your sacrum. Which usually means taking your head back more. Tendency is to lean forward when you come into the pose. You take the head, take the shoulders further back. And then push into the back foot, inhale and reach up. Turn your feet parallel. And we'll go to the second side, left leg out 90 degrees. Now, right from the beginning, align the back of your skull with your sacrum. Now, exhale into Utthita Trikonasana. Now, if we think of what Mary said earlier about how there's what we do consciously, which is what we are doing now, and then the million more thoughts running through us unconsciously, impressions running through us unconsciously that don't make it to the surface. So now, when we come into our asana practice, we harness that by silencing it. And we can tell when we are in that silent state, we can feel the peacefulness within. If we're not in that peaceful state, unwelcome thoughts will percolate. Unwelcome as in uninvited. And then push into the back foot, inhale, reach up. Turn the feet parallel and step or jump to Tadasana. So this is where the role of the Antaryaman comes in we develop, we grow that control over the internal experience. And so then one common example we know in yoga is that narrative, that inner narrative that may not be supporting us in our yoga practice, in our lives. And we're all familiar with that when it comes up, but sometimes we're not. Sometimes we don't recognize that's what's going on. We think that's the real voice and not the old voice, the old recording. Parshva Konasana. From Tadasana, I've put my bricks in front. You can keep yours behind, but you'll bring them in front when we come into the pose. From Tadasana, inhale and jump, 4 feet apart, right leg out, left foot in, bend the front knee and make a square. Exhale, lengthen that right arm, extend, reach, make it 3 feet longer. Close the space between your torso and your thigh, and then bring your hand down onto the brick. You can have it upright, horizontal or vertical. Thighs spin from the inside out, both thighs turning out still. And then from the bottom of the spine, revolve the spine toward the ceiling. You're going to take this upper arm and use it like a handle and turn, revolve. At the same time, this lower arm is going to hold this leg in place so this knee doesn't come forward. Revolve, and then take your left hand along your ear and stretch it out. And feel that extension all the way from the outer edge of the back foot to the fingertips. In the Parshva, the side extension of this pose. Belly soft, breath soft, eyes soft. And then push into the back foot. Inhale, come up. And turn your feet parallel. And we'll go to the second side. Turning your left leg out, 90 degrees. Bend that knee. Now reach with the left arm. Extend, and then place the hand on the brick. And as you push the arm against the knee, take the knee back, and synchronistically revolve the torso toward the ceiling. From the bottom of the spine up, go on turning. Revolve, revolve, revolve. Extend up through the back heel and then reach the upper arm beyond the crown of your head. Feel the stretch all the way from the fingernail beds to the skin of the outer heel, the sole of the foot. Then push into the back foot, inhale, and come up. And turn your feet parallel and come to Tadasana. Vrikshasana. Let's do Vrikshasana today. A little bit more balance for us. From Tadasana, cut the outer calves, outer hips in toward the midline. Stamp the left foot down, bring the right leg up. Now notice when you bend your right knee, bring your right leg up, that this outer hip remains stable. It doesn't swing out to the side, moves in toward the midline. If you need a belt to put around the foot, you can take it. Otherwise, catch hold of the ankle and bring the foot to the inner thigh and push the thigh back into the foot. Stabilizing here. Cut the outer hips in, stamp the foot to the inner thigh, and from the outer thigh, push back into the foot. Go on turning this thigh from the inside out and lengthening up through the spine. And then from here, you can bring the hands together in Namaste. You can take the arms up toward the ceiling. If the elbows bend, separate the palms. Eyes soft, breath soft, focusing on something ahead of you that isn't moving. Can you be a candle in a windless place? And then bring the hands down, come back through Tadasana. Good, well done. And we'll go to the second side. Come back to the stability of the mountain. Get into that mountain magic energy, rooted firmly into the earth, descending out through the soles of the feet, at the same time reaching up toward the sky. Bend your left knee, catch hold of the ankle, and place the foot to the inner thigh. And as you push the foot into the inner thigh, press the thigh back into the foot. Now, as you lengthen from the groin to the inner knee, watch that the entire torso doesn't turn with this leg. A lesson we've already been working with. Instead, turn the torso in the opposite direction. And then you can bring the hands to Namaste. And if you have the balance, you can bring them all the way up. I'm still working with this foot, since I broke the bone in it last summer. Eyes soft, steady gaze, stable like the mountain. And then slowly come back to Tadasana. Standing in Samastiti, stillness and steadiness. So now let's go to let's do a little bit of Bhishmasana work with the 2 bricks before we go into Dvipada Viparita Dandasana. We haven't done that one for a little while. So we'll use the 2 bricks to begin with. This one for the notch at the base of the skull, this one across the shoulder blades. I'm going to do a little bit of a Bhishmasana cycle. And then find that right position so that the back of the neck is long, the forehead is higher than the chin. Begin with the brick higher up on the shoulder blades, but not so high that it pushes the top of the shoulders forward. The top of the shoulders still want to pin down. Then you can extend it through the heels, just briefly, before you let the legs go. And in this pose, become the receiver of your breath. No longer the doer. Allow the shape of this pose to dictate how you receive the prana. So you'll observe how the breath will move through you in this position. And of course, Prashant would tell us, having taken the position, take the condition of the asana. Notice the natural desire for the prana to move into the thoracic bowl or the chest box region, the abode of the prana. This is the region of the body that prana is assigned to. Of the 5 vayus, the 5 winds, prana being one of the vayus, resides in this thoracic region. We can feel how at home it is here. And the firmness of the yoga brick underneath forces the prana to lift and open the gates of the sternum and spread laterally into the side ribs, into the armpit chest. Not controlling the breath in any way. There is an element of surrender here to the breath. Knowing that there is a union between your effort and God's grace, or the grace of a higher power, whatever that means to you. It could be the yoga practice itself. It could be your communion with nature. Or you may have a particular vision of God. As you feel that breath roll over you, even though it's dynamic, there's a calmness to it. And now you're going to adjust by moving the brick just about an inch lower on your spine. So just come up, you can just slightly wiggle up the brick, but don't come so far that your shoulder blades come off of it. You still want to feel the lower tips of the shoulder blades on the brick. You don't want it to wind up down under your lower ribs. It's a small physical difference, but it's a strong somatic difference. You'll feel a very different impression in your breath now. The inhalation breath will become fuller and deeper. Those zillions of little thoughts, impressions that go on in the background are really just a nervous system response. They are a byproduct of your nervous system, like sweating, twitching, those unconscious little movements we might make with our fingers, brushing back our hair without knowing it, all the things we do that we're unaware of. They are somatic and unconscious, and they're composed of memories, past impressions. And although we have a collective memory of tremendous volume, there's only certain parts of it that stand out, that made an impression. And they were based on your understanding at that time, not your current understanding, not your current intelligence. And when we allow them to come to the foreground, we're stuck in the past. So with each exhalation breath, let go of any thought that rises up. There may be trauma in the past, and these will leave strong imprints, and they will come up again and again. But they're not happening now. You may feel them somatically on a physical level and have a physical response, an emotional response. But when we're able to realize that they are not happening now, that we're safe, that we are, through the grace of something higher, something greater, in a place of more control over our environment, our choices, our lives. And we can find peace in this, in the present moment, and let go of these impressions. Now, preparing to come out of this pose, but place your hands palms down, tuck your chin slightly, push yourself up, remove the bricks, and just lie flat for a moment. And this is another way of understanding how impressions are formed. When you lie flat like this, can you still feel the impression of the brick behind you? How flat does flat feel now? It's quite different, having been uplifted by the brick. Now you'll bend your knees and turn to one side to come up. And let's do the Bishmasana with the chair today. We're going to go through a little Bishma. We did this one just a couple of classes ago, I think. Have the chair, have a brick for your head. Not everyone can reach the back of the chair with their hands, so you can have a belt. Just weave that through the chair so that when you reach back for the chair, if you're not able to catch hold of the bar, you can catch hold of the belt. And we're going to do the 2 stages of this today. So you begin by sitting a little bit further away from the chair so that you feel the upper part of the shoulder blades, like you did in the first stage of the 2-brick Bishmasana. Now you want to feel the brick in the upper part of the shoulder blades. Have the brick high enough that you can rest your head. Legs are crossed in Sukhasana. And then from here, you reach back for the chair back. If you can't take the back of the chair, you get the belt. Then lift from the armpit chest to the elbows, lift up. And maintain this. Now this is stronger in a different kind of a way. You may find it stronger. There's more of a, with the arms in this position, there's a different intensity in the pose. And once here, observe how this affects your breath, how the prana moves now. Your breathing might become a little bigger. You can also, if you're not at the right place on the back of the chair, you may want, if you're short in the torso, you may want to sit on blanket height. If you're tall in the torso, you need to move the chair a little farther away. The eyes be closed, spiritual gaze toward the spiritual heart as the Ajna chakra to the Atman in the heart center. Even with the head back, the gaze is always toward the heart, surrendering to the heart self, surrendering to that which is greater than the individual self. In this way, our practice becomes an act of devotion. And there's peace in this. Groins are soft, knees descending. And now you'll release the chair, push yourself up, and you're going to change the cross of your legs and come closer to the chair. So the chair goes a little lower down your back this time. Still on the shoulder blades, but now on the lower tips of the shoulder blades. And again, reach back for the chair back. Lift the elbows toward the ceiling. And lift the sternum from the bottom up. And observe if there's a difference in the breath, how it moves. as there was when you were in the supine pose with the 2 bricks. Do you notice now? So this is what Father Joe would call atrial and ventricle levels of the heart. We're now in the ventricle, the lower level of the heart, which tends to bring on a deeper breathing. Mouth is closed, eyes are soft, throat is soft. And then release your arms and come on back up. Now we're nice and open in the chest region. We're going to do a Dvipada Viparita Dandasana with the chair, brick for the head. Sam, you'll take a second chair for your head. You can have the chair so that your feet go to the wall, or I'm going to put the bolster here. We're just going to do the first two stages. So if you use the bolster, if you need it, as you slide down the chair, you can always put the bolster under your feet, or if you needed it, you might need it all together. In whichever way we're doing this, might be too much for your back to have your heels on the floor, in which case you can just roll this bolster underneath your feet. And belt the legs. Oops, I'm going to do it the other way. Make the belt firm. And then tuck the tailbone as I lie back. So my spine is on the chair. My buttocks come somewhat off the chair. And I'm going to support my head on this brick. I can extend out through the heels. I'm going to first begin by reaching out through the arms. So if you know this pose, you can go ahead into it. If you need to watch me, you can. Then after the arms are overhead for a while, then clasp the elbows first to bring my arms back, and then bring them underneath the chair, and catch the crossbar, palms up. Pinning the outer shoulders down and broadening across the chest. We're beginning with the upright vertical brick. And if you need the bolster under your feet, you can take it there or walk your feet up the wall. So everyone now coming into Dvipada Viparita Dandasana, literally called two-legged inverted staff pose. But the beauty of this pose is that it is a yogi's way of prostrating to their teacher. So it's quite a beautiful pose of mastery and coming before the teacher. And when you do this full pose, the head is on the floor, there's no chair. And it is a demonstration of devotion, honoring the teacher. Bear this in mind, and you are in the shape of this pose, and observe the flow of prana. Go on extending out through the legs. You have to reintroduce this every couple of breaths. It tends to get away from us, doesn't it? The legs sort of lose that. We need to extend beyond the heels, beyond the feet. Reach, broaden, and extend, like the reading we began with today. So don't pull in like a small suffering thing. Instead, make yourself larger, shine like the sun, radiate out in all directions. And then you can either stay here or take the brick down to its horizontal upright height. This will take you down the chair just a little bit more. So again, we're getting that action, that two-step action of opening up the heart. Now at a slightly lower level, the ventricle level. And you may notice a shift in your breath. Eyes are closed, inner gaze toward the heart. We'll be here for a few more breaths, allowing the character of the pose, the iconography of the pose to make its imprint. Here we are erasing those old imprints, those old unconscious stories that whirl around with new ones. That's why it's so important that we do our practice and repeat our practice again and again and again, as it establishes these new impressions. Now, preparing to come out of the pose, bring your hands to the chair back, bend your knees, tuck in your chin, and pull yourself up chest first. That's it. You may want to take a hand behind your head. The head can get heavy. And then now sitting well on your chair, push out into the yoga belt. And this is to stabilize the lower body. Stamp down through the feet, push into the yoga belt, and anchor the lower body from the waist down. And inhale, reach up through the arms. Become tall in the spine. Feel the lightness in the rib cage as you do this. Big exhalation, turn to your right. Take your hand to the far edge of the chair seat, or you may feel you can bring the hand all the way around and catch the far crossbar of the chair. Either way, if you catch the crossbar, you can use that action to turn the torso even more. Push out into the belt again to stabilize the hips, the lower body, and then push-pull on the chair to turn from the navel, turn from the rib cage, turn from the armpit chest. Make the collarbones perpendicular with the chair back. And now turn your head to look behind you. Head turns last. Release, turning to the chair back again. Stabilizing one more time. Pushing into the belt, stamp down through the feet. Inhale, reach up through the arms. Big exhalation as you turn to the other side. Pin the shoulders back. Inhale, puff up the chest. You want to reach all the way around for the far crossbar behind you, and then with the arm behind you, you can turn the spine even more. Push, pull, turn. Inhale, lift, exhale, turn. Turn from the navel. Inhale, exhale, turn from the rib cage. Inhale, exhale, turn from the armpit chest. Turn your head last. Now push into the belt. Make sure the hips are stabilized. We don't want one knee going way forward. We want to keep them even. The far leg, the right leg, draw it back into the socket. And now release, turning toward the chair, back. Remove the belt and come out. Get the chair to come out. Okay, we're going to do a supported Ustrasana today with the chair. We have the chair to wall. And I use a bolster on the back of the chair to take my head to, or you could use, if you have two bolsters, you could put them crosswise and take the head back. In whichever way it's going to give you the most support. You can even build it all the way up so that you feel well supported as you come back into your Ustrasana. And I'm going to put a brick between my knees. You can either belt the thighs or use the brick. I'm putting a brick between my knees, because that way, if I don't feel the brick, I know my knees are turning away from each other. Now in this pose, we want the thighs to spin in toward each other. And that protects the lower back. Keep the buttocks broad. And now, beginning, I'm going to reach up, get length in the spine. So first climbing up, and then coil back and support my back on the chair. Now, when I use the two bolsters, I don't really know where to put my arms, so I'm just going to take my arms back. Taking my arms over my head, or I can bring them down toward my side. Push down into the shins and lift the heart from behind. We have all those impressions from Vishwasana, Dvipada Viparita Dandasana, of the brick, of the edge of the chair, behind the heart. Now lift from there. Lift the heart from behind. One, spinning the thighs in, don't lose touch with that brick. Buttocks descend, tailbone descends, spine lifts, lengthens, and opens. Now, just going to show another way of setting this up. If you're in your pose, stay there. Another way is just to have a bolster vertical. I'm still going to use the brick. Just depending on the props you have, And that way, I don't have the support under my back, but my head is supported. So you don't have for some of you, feeling the weight of your head is too much. Going back. I can have the bolster here for my head. And then my arms come to the chair. And then again, press down through the shins and lift up. Coming into one of these variations. But when we stay in the pose for a little while like this, for most of us, head support is key. The head becomes very heavy in this pose. We'll just be here another minute. We're not staying long. Can you surrender into this pose? Maybe some of the other poses were a little easier for you to get that sense of surrender in. What is it in this pose that holds you back? What can you adjust to change that? Adjust your breath, adjust your mind. Descend the shoulder blades and lift the sternum from the bottom up. If the shoulders are too high, if the shoulders are not descending, it can be uncomfortable for the back of the neck. Okay, now everybody, come on up. Just wiggle away from your chair and sit back on your heels for a moment in Vajrasana. And come on up. And now you're going to do either chair Sarvangasana or Viparita Karani. Chair Sarvangasana, I like to put a blanket beyond the head end so that when I wiggle off, I'm able to, I don't get stuck on my mat. You could put a blanket on your chair seat or just, I don't mind the sensation of the chair. But if you want to use a blanket, you want to first put a sticky mat on it, on the chair, so that the blanket doesn't slide around. And then sitting on the chair seat, sitting to one side. Legs come over the chair back. Slide onto the chair seat, like you did in Dvipada Viparita Dandasana, and then push off until you come onto your shoulders on the bolster. See that the neck is long, shoulders are supported. You can bring your hands through the chair back through and catch the crossbar underneath the chair, palms up, and eventually come into the Viparita Karani version, feet up toward the ceiling. Now you just have to find the place on the chair where you feel comfortable. If it doesn't feel right on your back, you may have to wiggle a little bit more on or off the chair. And here you spin the thighs in and stretch up through your legs, whichever pose you're doing. Viparita Karani on the bolster with legs up the wall, or in chair Sarvangasana, spin the thighs in and stretch up through the legs. Every few breaths, you'll want to renew your pose. whether you're in Viparita Karani or chair sarvangasana. Stretch up through the legs. Pin the outer shoulders down. And lifting the heart center. So again, you've got this lift from behind the heart that should be brought on by the shape of the pose. And just observe the flow of your breath. There should be fullness in the chest box area. Again, this area being the home of prana. It naturally flows quite beautifully in this region. You can feel it in these inverted or semi-inverted postures, that fullness in the heart center. Spin the thighs in and stretch up again. Finding that effortless effort as we apply ourselves the grace of a higher power will come in and carry us. And the legs will become lighter. The heart becomes lighter. Now, whichever pose you're in, you're going to come out. Those in chair sarvangasana, place the feet on the chair back, release your arms from inside the chair and slide away from the chair. Those in Viparita Karani can slide away from the wall. Now everybody's going to come away enough that your buttocks are not on the bolster anymore. And instead you're going to cross your legs on top of your bolster. When you do this, the buttocks are very close to the bolster, so you feel the lumbar soften into your mat. And just observe your breath here. Slow, soft, easy breathing. Then you'll change the cross of your legs. Belly soft, thighs soft, hips soft. And when you've been here an equal amount of time, you'll stretch out your legs for Shavasana. You can have the bolster behind your knees, or if you prefer, you can put the bolster on top of your thighs. Each has a different effect. Behind the knees softens the lumbar. On top of the thighs releases the hip flexors. And then with an exhalation breath, let go. Eyes receding deep into the sockets. Relaxing all the fine muscles around the eyes, the skin of the forehead, softening toward the brow line. Relax the jaw by letting the teeth part. Tongue spreads in the lower palate. Throat soft. It's very important to soften the throat. This is a spiritual gateway. Shoulders are heavy. Thighs are heavy. Let the organs of action be like lead. And the mind be like cotton. As with the breath, very soft. As you exhale, the cells of the brain soften. And with each exhalation breath, let go. With each exhalation breath, let go. At the bottom of the exhalation breath, the top of the inhalation breath, there may be a pause there where you can know the complete emptiness. As you abide in your own temple, you learn to be still and know. And it is in this stillness that we realize our relationship to the Atman and our higher self. And this is our self-realization. Deepening your breath now, bringing your awareness back to the surface. Gently moving fingers, toes, wrists, ankles. Start to move intuitively. And when you're ready, turn to your right side and stay there. With your knees bent, stay on your right side. Don't be in a hurry. Don't be in a hurry for the outside world to rush back in. Allow yourself time for these new impressions to take hold. And now turning toward the floor, gently push yourself up to sitting. Keep your gaze down. And we'll close the practice by chanting the Om together. Bringing the hands together in Atmanjali Mudra, pressing the thumbs to the heart center, lift the heart center to greet the prayer hands, rolling shoulders back and down. Lift all four corners of the floating ribs on an inhalation breath, and then take an exhalation breath, maintaining this lift of the chest. And now on your next full inhalation, May the benefits of our practice be shared with others. Namaste.